How difficult is it to transition from wooden garden beds over to metal garden beds like these? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in our video today. And after 5 years of gardening in our wooden garden beds, they started rotting and becoming very difficult to deal with because we took some shortcuts when we built them. But we're in our early 50s, and let's be honest, we really don't want to have to keep having maintenance on our wooden garden beds. In this video, I'll show you how we assembled our Epic Gardening Birdies beds, how we installed them over our existing soil from our wooden garden beds, and how they performed in our summer garden, how they performed with our cattle fence trellising and our irrigation system, and generally what we think of them so far. Gardening is great on its own, but it's even better when it can be shared with a friend. If you like these kind of garden talks, be sure to like, subscribe, and stick around. I'm Michelle from Michelle's Garden Grows, and I share my backyard suburban organic garden adventures in Southwest Virginia Zone 7A. I also host the Garden Book Club and share content that encourages a peaceful lifestyle. Before we get started, if you're watching this around Thanksgiving, Epic Gardening is having a huge Black Friday sale of 25% off the garden beds like mine here. And you can stack my discount code MGG5 on top of that for additional savings. Now let's get into the video. We built our garden in 2021, and my husband did a ton of work leveling the yard and prepping the space. Wood was expensive then, so we made untreated pine beds and added cattle fencing trellises. After 5 years, those beds wore out, so in 2024 we upgraded to Epic Gardening's metal beds. I tried one of their smaller beds and loved the quality. Durable, made of aluzinc steel, food safe, and built to last over 20 years. We've been very pleased with how the garden beds look in our space. They coordinate well with our house. They work with the trellises we already had. They work with our new irrigation system. And here's my husband to tell you a little more about how he installed them.
Let's start at the beginning. We had these wooden beds. They were 4 by 8 feet. They were crummy pine because we were trying to avoid the treated wood. And after about 4 years, they got pretty nasty. So here we are post getting the metal beds in. And let me just tell you a couple tips that might be helpful. We went with 4 by 8 because I could buy 12-foot boards and cut them down. But so these beds, these birdie beds, come in the exact same size. The issue was I didn't want to have to dig all the dirt out. So what I did is I took this bed here, for example, and we just simply dug this dirt that's in the first 8 inches and pushed it into the middle, so that we could come in with the pre-built birdie bed and drop it right over it and backfill the soil. The problem that we run into a lot of times in yards like ours is we're in a suburban neighborhood. As you can hear some of the birds and the noise. The yard slopes just a wee bit. So I bought this really large level. It's 48 inches from the little local Ace Hardware, so that I could put it across the bed to see am I level. What I noticed is I had to do a lot of leveling, and I'll show you some of those tricks when we get to one of the beds that had a greater slope on it. So here's the bed that gave me the most trouble, and we got on all kinds of forums trying to find out what should we do. Everyone said dig the other side out down, but we couldn't do that because then the bed would be all the way under the ground. When we used wood, we could just cut the wood off and level everything out, but we didn't want to do that with the metal. So I improvised by getting some of these retaining wall rocks. Now, if you look, these are like 12-inch rocks, like that, 12-inch. They're by maybe, 4? So the issue was, once we got it onto the landscape rocks, and this is perfectly level with my level, is I didn't want the soil to wash away once it got in there. So I put gravel inside on the edges, and I put landscape paper up against the edges, which I haven't trimmed back yet. I was waiting to see the soil settle down, but that way the soil wouldn't creep out underneath the bed with the landscape rocks. The other little trick I learned or thought about is in this corner here underneath, I filled with gravel and I put a piece of PVC pipe coming out as a drain, just in case we got too much water, which we do get sometimes. It's kind of like a drain for the basement or what have you. It's just exiting out any overflow from underneath the bed just to keep it from pooling. If you look at the wall, we had to, of course, work the retaining wall up into the slope of the hill. And if you look here on this bed beside it, I had to use smaller retaining rocks, but not as many because it was just a little bit of a slope. And I used the gravel to kind of hide all of it and blend it all together, which is for our walkway. And I think it worked out quite well. Now, just so you understand what we're doing here, these were the original beds for this area, but we're going to get rid of these 6 little beds because they weren't very productive, except for these great gourds here. But we are tromboncino squash, actually. We're going to replace these with 4 of the round metal beds so that we can retain our carriers for our vining plants. Well, I hope that this helps somebody try to figure out how they can lay out their garden with the metal beds, and I hope that it doesn't overwhelm you. If you have any ideas or maybe tips that you guys have done, drop them in the comments below, but also share your pictures of what you've done to fix different situations in your garden. You might help someone else.
What about you? Have you been considering transitioning from wooden garden beds over to metal garden beds? If you are in the market for it, I'll leave a discount code down in the description box. And let me know if you have any questions or share your experiences. I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you found value in this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our garden talks. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I share daily garden updates and behind the scene moments. As always, I enjoyed our garden talk, friend, and I'll see you next time. Happy gardening.